next time.
It's a chagiga.
That's the makar that you can't be misafir with Davar Makam Thomas. Because chagiga.
I don't remember.
No, it's a Gemara. I forgot the Gemara, but so next time he'll show me a safer. That's very that's the cash on this whole Gemara. Something rebel. Meir Eini Chacham.
All right, we ready to roll? Aaron Horowitz's Anikel's wedding tonight. So Zeb Bold and Aaron Horowitz are out.
No, he just called me trying to get on.
The Daf should go quicker.
Should have done it earlier.
He's
We should have done it earlier.
He's trying to get on.
Yeah.
They built him a Rosh Hashiva, a plexiglass sukkah.
That's what he thought. Oh, what, so he wants to get on in the middle of the wedding?
Yeah. He's trying to get on. He just called.
He could call in if he can't get on the video.
No, I think the whole point is, he wants to
Come
private.
on.
I think he anticipated this, and that's why he was trouble last night.
Yeah, he knew he'd book out. There you go. Anyways, I forgot to say, Shmuel Sugar reminded me that Ben Sira, right, who Rashi quotes. Ben Sira is the famous Gemara. You know how Ben Sira was conceived? His mother went into a bathhouse, and there was some leftover zera, and that's how she got pregnant. Whatever that means. Yeah. We learn a lot of halachas out. The thing that we discussed with Moshe Feinstein last week about artificial insemination, that's all based on that story with Ben Sira. But that's where he comes from. So Mamela, I don't know if that's why he was controversial, but his whole life started off with a controversy. So it just continued like that. But
I saw it in Target.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. So just the chazer from yesterday. So we had all first we started off with the Agadata, right? About being drunk from Golus, and that's why we're not going to be blamed for not concentrating on davening. And then your drunk is responsible for damages. And then the advantages of not davening when drunk, it takes away your chatzeiros. Davening, you have to be calm when you daven. And then whether it's a priority to learn during the day or at night, the Gemara seems to say that it's a priority to learn during the day. And then living miles of wine, and if you have more wine in your house with spilling, it's better. And then on Amud Beis, that a person can be identified by his cup, his wallet, and anger. How often he gets angry. What else did we have? And then we had a yid and going in the inside yard and a yid on the outside, and the opposite case. Right? And then renting property from a landlord. That's what we're up to. So tonight's daf is not so long, but it ain't so easy either. Hence, Yuri posting a lot of pictures. You know when it's going to be a rough daf. When Yuri posts pictures on the chat, then you know that we're headed. But I made my own Lego with a Lego man today. I didn't even ask my kids to help me. You'll see my Lego prowess soon. Yeah. Anyways, so we are up to. What are we up to? I think Resh Lakish with Talmidei de Rabbi Chanina. Yeah, it's around 15 lines up, I would say. Right? The last one on the line is Resh Lakish, Reish Lamed. Yeah, Resh Lakish with Talmidei de Rabbi Chanina. Yeah, there we have it. More than 15? Yeah, maybe it's like 20. I don't know. A little bit more than halfway down. Actually, consider like a third, 2/3.
20 lines down, exactly.
20 lines up. 20 lines over the bottom. So Resh Lakish, the Talmidei de Rav. I'm sorry, I lost the place already. Resh Lakish, Talmidei de Rabbi Chanina. Resh Lakish and Talmidei Rabbi Chanina iklu lahu punduk. They would travel to a hotel. A punduk is the equivalent of a hotel. There was the tenant wasn't there, but the renter was there. The guy renting the property wasn't there, but the landlord was there. Yeah, so now, what's this meaning? The landlord was a guy. So can they rent from the landlord, or do we say, no, you got to go from the renter, right? Now, we'll see why this practically has a lot of applications in our contemporary Eruvin. Yeah? So again, there was the tzeicher wasn't there, but the maschir was there. Amru, and they said, Mahu l'meger minei. What's the deal? Can we rent from the landlord? So when he can't throw them out, meaning where he can't, if the landlord can't break the lease, then there's no question you're not allowed to rent from him. Meaning he has no say in the matter whatsoever. He can't break the lease and kick this guy out. Then we certainly can't rent from him. Again, we're renting from the guy in order to allow us to make an eruv. Right? That's the Gezeira D'Rabbanan, that you're not allowed to make an eruv if a guy is in there unless you rent it from him. Where he is able to where he can evict them. But since he's able to kick them out, so we could rent from him. But right now he didn't kick them out. So since he didn't kick them out, the bottom line is it doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the renter. It's not the landlord's. All right. Let's rent it from him. And when we get to our Rebbeim that are in the south where they were traveling to, then we'll ask them if we did the right thing. Also, Rav Afas, they went and they asked Rav Afas, you did the right thing. Okay? So, the first chiddush is, 1 second. They said to do this, even though they didn't know whether it works halachically. Is that what we do? They basically say, do it and then ask. Aren't we trained to ask a shaila and then do?
Something D'Rabbanan Hakol. This was, and we know we go l'kula when it comes.
So
to
is that
children.
anytime you have a shaila, you just do and then ask. If it's a D'Rabbanan.
Are you asking what we do, or are you asking what we should be doing?
I'm asking what we should. From here, it seems like, Yuri, you can just do and then ask. That's what it seems like, right? So obviously they couldn't ask. They didn't have cell phones, fine, so they couldn't ask. But Lamaisa, maybe they shouldn't have made the eruv.
Isn't it better to ask for forgiveness than permission?
What?
It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, right?
That's true. That is true.
Well, the question is, did the situation happen and then they had to ask afterwards? Or are we sitting here talking about it on a Wednesday night? What's the halacha?
What are you saying?
No, I'm saying, did they ended up in an inn for Shabbos, and so what do they do now? They can't ask the question. They're in the hotel.
Right, you're right. So don't make the eruv.
But why did they need an eruv for? They could have done without the eruv.
Well, maybe no, because maybe they needed to carry. I mean, maybe they needed to carry. It's an interesting thing. We're going to get to it in a couple of blot from now, the difference between the Rabbanan and the Raisa. But it's interesting that they said, do it and then ask, right? I'm saying, if you go tell a rabbi, yeah, I'm going to do it and then I'll ask. And I don't think that rabbis that's going to fly too much with them.
It could be that they heard both stud and they just didn't know how to paskin. Meaning, it could be there was a real tzad that they held that you could really do it. It wasn't just like something that like an average ignorant person just doesn't know the halacha. We're talking about Reish Lakish here. He obviously had a tzad lahakal and a tzad to do it, and he just didn't know if we should paskin that way.
Oh, interesting. Again, it could be, but I'm saying it's an interesting thing that they said. They said, well, ask. But maybe there's no point in asking. What do they got to ask for? They did it already. Shine. For the future. I don't know. Okay. Whatever. We'll see this more invited. Now, what does this have to do with anything? So there's the reason why this is very practical is, can you go to a landlord, right? Let's say a hotel. Right? Now, you got tons of goyim that rented hotel rooms. How about in the city, right? And we make an eruv in Far Rockaway, Lawrence, whatever city you're making. There's tons of goyim, tons of irreligious Jews. How do we go about doing schiras reshus from them? Right? Okay, so we go to the police, so you go to this, you go. I mean, the bottom line here in Far Rockaway, Lawrence, we go to the police. Some say that doesn't work. And okay, because you have to rent the streets, and you also have to rent the private houses from the goyim. So the question is, does anybody have any jurisdiction over these houses or not? Right? So from this Gemara, it's mashma that they have to have the power to kick the guy out. does the government have the power to kick a guy out? Now the reason why this is a major thing is because lamaisa schiras reshus, you're not allowed to make an eruv if there's a guy in your reshus. So we have plenty of goyim in our eruv, as does every city, including Yerushalayim. Right? So how do you do it? Do they have to have a koyach to be able to kick out? So the thing is, in a democratic society, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, democratic government, nobody, for the most part, has a right to kick anybody out of the house. They could do it temporarily, but then you can get a restraining order, you can get this, you can get that. Nobody really has the koyach, which is why many poskim have an issue. That's one of the major issues that people have with using a city eruv, because the bottom line is the schiras reshus doesn't work, right? But there are poskim to say it does work, because eminent domain, you can kick somebody out, and the government can take over the house and kick them out of the house and finished, and they'll have to sell the house.
Isn't everything going on in Farakaway now a raya that you could?
Why? Because they tell you can't make a minyan.
Yeah, they're locking you out of shul essentially.
They're not locking you out. Many people paid the fine and continued on. Right? I'm not saying I'm pro or anti, but I'm just saying that that's what people are doing. But that is the issue. Do they have to have the koyach to kick you out or not? So the Ramah, though, Lamaisa goes with the akula that as long as the owner has something in the people's apartments, then that's enough. It's called like tfisas yad. As long as, meaning when you have most apartments, the refrigerator and the oven belong to the owner. So Mamela Ramosha goes with this. The Chazon Ish does not go with this. Ramosha says you can just go to an apartment building and just go to the guy who owns the building, and that's enough. Same thing with a hotel. If you're going away to a hotel, right, all these Pesach programs and all that, let's say they have goyim living there or irreligious Jews, so do you have to go to each one and rent, or can you just go to the landlord? So as long as he has, the Ramah says, as long as he has something in the room that belongs to him, then that's enough. That means that he has a yad in everybody's house.
When you go to a hotel, though, everybody's renting. So
right, but that's mamish this shaila right here. What about a private house? So the question is, do hotels have the koyach to be able to kick somebody out?
But the hotel itself is owned by a non-Jew.
Correct. So
meaning what's it? Where you're not? I don't know. I'm very confused here.
What's the problem?
I don't know. Something's not.
Meaning you have to collect. You have to listen. If a guy owns a hotel, so at the minimum, the ballrooms, the hallways, the offices are all belong to a guy, and the other people's rooms in the hotel that are owned by guys. So you have to rent it from them.
Right, but only those rooms, or the ballroom, or whatever.
Or even if it's owned by a Yid hotel, but if there's guys that rent the rooms from the Yid, so now you have to go rent the rooms from the guy.
But the pipes, the sinks, the bathrooms, all that stuff is owned by the.
I don't know, but so that's what Ramosha says is a kula, but that's what we have to come on to.
But a house
that's what we have to come on to. A private house doesn't work like that, correct? So that's where we go to the police, because Lamaisa, they can go into somebody's house and throw them out for at least some period of time, right? Until the court's open or whatever it is. But the whole thing is not simple at all. That's one of the issues. So then, David, this is what I wanted you to remind me about a couple of days ago. I think this is what. So because you had said that nowadays Lamaisa everybody lives with goyim, right? So I don't remember which of the Poskim Achronim says that the bottom line is, you see, this gezerah did not work. It's a massive chiddush. So this gezerah didn't work. The Maisa, we live with goyim. Goyim are in our eruv. So Mamela, the whole thing is over, bitul, and finished, and we don't have to worry about this. It's a wild chiddush. I don't think anybody paskins like that, but they use it as sort of like a combination type thing to allow the eruv. But saying Lamaisa, we all live with goyim, and it didn't help. This gezerah, for whatever reason, did not help. So Mamela, we let it fly. Okay, fine. So then the next case, yeah. Rab Chanina Bar Yosef.
If the reason, if the reason for the gzeira is because of shvichas damim, are we still chayshish?
We're still chayshish because of gzeira d'Rabbanan. The bottom line is it's a gzeira d'Rabbanan.
Oh, but the whole reason of the gzeira is because we're chayshish the goyim for shvichas damim.
Well, it's shvichas damim that we're going to learn from them.
But if that's not Nagay anymore, maybe Katana that's
So that's
not
what he's
Nagay.
saying. Yeah, but it's a chiddush to say that we're gonna just eliminate a gzeira derabbanon.
But we do
Right?
that. Even the guy says you do that if the reason given is the only reason.
Correct. So that's where it gets into. If that's the only reason, but Lamaisa, they still don't want us living with goyim. They don't.
Right.
So, but Lamaisa.
Don't we say Lagabi haircuts? Don't we say Lagabi haircuts that you're allowed to get haircuts nowadays from Goyim?
Well, it's because of the police.
Right, I'm saying that we're not afraid the Goyim
get
are going to kill you.
arrested.
Right.
Yeah, but that was never.
So wouldn't that be the
gezerah
same?
Per se. I don't know if that was a gezerah. What Gersh
isn't it brought down on
Gilu. It is brought down, but I don't think it was ever a gezerah. Or just there was like, don't get a haircut from a guy because he might slice the throat when he with
Is that also back when they used razors? They're not using that on us.
Well, they do use razors on the back a little bit, but
they could kill
you.
I've never had one use a razor on me before.
They always offer razor.
By the Pri Chodosh and Chalav Akum.
Well, that's the Pri Chodosh. It's more by Gilui, right? That you're not supposed to.
Gilui, yeah.
Right, it's uncovered. Yeah. All right, whatever it is. It's not the sugya here right now, but we'll see. So let's see the next case. Reb Chanina bar Yosef, Reb Chia bar Abba, Reb Asi. Another story. Iklu lahu pundik. They also traveled to pundik. The asa nachri married the pundik b'Shabbos. So if you remember, we had a couple of blot ago. If the guy is not even on location, does he even asa? So here we're talking about where the guy was not on location, and then he came on Shabbos. On Shabbos, he showed up. So there's two different ways of learning this Gemara, whether they made an eruv without the guy there or they didn't make an eruv without the guy there. But the bottom line is, either way, the guy showed up on Shabbos. So now I got to figure out, can they rent from the guy on Shabbos or not? What's the story? Can we rent from him on Shabbos? Seicher k'ma'arav dami is renting like making an eruv mama. Just like when you have to make an eruv, you have to make it obviously before Shabbos. You can't make an eruv on Shabbos. So renting from the guy, you also have to do from Friday. A seicher is like somebody who's mevatel reshus. Ma mevatel reshus. Somebody could be mevatel reshus, right? Meaning, mevatel reshus is that when one guy forgets to be part of the eruv. So what could he do? He just gives his reshus to everybody else, right? So he could do that even on Shabbos. So just like a yid could be mevatel reshus to everybody else on Shabbos. Af seicher vafilu b'Shabbos, and then you could even rent from a guy even on Shabbos. Now, obviously, you can't sign a contract and you can't give him money, but you can make some sort of agreement that you're renting the property from him on Shabbos. So that was the shayla. So Reb Chanina bar Yosef Omar Nischar. Reb Chanina bar Yosef says, let's rent from him on Shabbos. Reb Asi Omar Lo Nischar, and Reb Asi said, don't rent from him. Omar Lo Reb Chia bar Rava Nismech al Divrei Zaken v'Nischar. You could be simich on the words of the Zaken and rent from him, right? The Zaken obviously is Reb Chanina bar Yosef. Also Shailali Reb Yochanan. They went and asked Reb Yochanan, Amar Lehen, he said, Yafa sisam sheschartem. You did a good thing that you did rent from the guy on Shabbos, and therefore your eruv was good. Tohu ban Nardai, but the people from Nardai, the yeshiva of Nardai, wondered, asked, to me, Amar Reb Yochanan, did Reb Yochanan really say that you're allowed to rent from a guy on Shabbos? Amar Reb Yochanan, Seicher k'ma'arav dami. A renter is like making an eruv chatzeiros. My love. What did he mean when he said that a seicher is like renting? I'm just like when you make an eruv, it has to be done when it was still day, meaning from Friday. So to a renter also has to be when it's still day. And therefore, how could Rabbi Yochanan, we see Rabbi Yochanan clearly holds you're not allowed to rent from a guy on Shabbos. So he answered, what he means is just like when you make an eruv chatzeiros. You're allowed to do it with less than a shava pruta, meaning you don't need that much. You don't need bread that's worth more than that. You could even rent. We had this a couple of blot ago that you could even rent from the guy with something less than a pruta. And just like somebody makes an eruv, you're allowed to make an eruv with a worker, right? An employee that's there. Even the renter, you can even do it with an employee. And just like if you make an eruv, you can have 5 people in one chatzer. Echad ma'arav ayidei kulan. One could do it on behalf of those 5. So chanami chamisha shumi b'chatzer achas echad tzaycher ayidei kulan. A tzaycher also, when you're renting, you can rent from one guy on behalf of everybody, right? So that's what he meant when he compared eruv chatzeiros to renting, but not that you can't do renting on Shabbos itself. That you can do. Again, we thought that Rabbi Yochanan, when he says we're comparing eruv, making eruv chatzeiros, which is amongst Yidden, to renting from the goy, which is obviously from a goy, we compare the two. So we had thought that meant that just like the eruv chatzeiros amongst the Yidden has to be done on Friday, not on Shabbos. So too the schiras reshus renting from the goy has to be done on Friday and on Shabbos. And we say no, he's referring to a bunch of other things. Fine. Now we're gonna go back to the original psak. So the Hiba Rabbi Elazar had a question on this. Amar Rabbi Zera might hear the Rabbi Elazar. What was Rabbi Elazar wondering about? Amar Rav Sheshes Gavra Rabbi Rabbi Zera lo Yoda might hear the Rabbi Elazar. This great person, Rabbi Zera, didn't understand what Rabbi Elazar's kasha was. Kasha lay the Shmuel Rabbi. He had a kasha from Shmuel as Rabbi. The Amar Shmuel had said 3 dinim by eruv. And these are where Yudi's pictures come in, yeah? Kol makom sha'isrin uma'arvin mevatlin. Any place where the neighbors can make you asur, and they can make an eruv there, then they could be mevatel reshus. Ma'arvin ve'ein isrin. If you can make an eruv, but if you don't, they're not going to make them asur, then that's another thing. And then isrin ve'ein ma'arvin. Then there's a third case where they can make it asur for you to carry there, but they're not allowed to make an eruv, and then ein mevatel. And those guys are not allowed to, right? So the first case is the people in the chatzer can make you asur, and they're also allowed to make an eruv. So then they'd be able to move out to the reshus. Ma'arvin ve'ein isrin. If they can make an eruv, but if they didn't, they're not going to make you asur. Or isrin, they make you asur ve'ein ma'arvin, but they're not allowed to make an eruv. Then ein mevatel. Now the Gemara is going to explain these 3 cases. Okay, kol makom sha'isrin uma'arvin. Anytime they can make you asur, and they are allowed to make an eruv mevatel, they're allowed to be mevatel their reshus. Going base chatzeiros zu lifnim mizu. There's 2 chatzeiros. One is inside the other. Yeah. So what's the case? So they're allowed to make an eruv together, and they will asur on each other. So then they're allowed to be mevatel. So I took my little Legos here. I don't know if they'll compete with. Here you go. Let's take away this man. Meanwhile, because this would be the guy, but we're not talking about that case right now. Yeah. So this is the inner. Yeah. The red are the houses. Okay. The red are the houses. Forget this door. Meanwhile. Yeah. Now here you have 2 doors. I actually found doors that open up. There you go. See. There you go. Okay. So this is the inner chatzer, dead end. Inner chatzer, outer chatzer. Right. So these guys, right, if the doors are open, which they are, the only way this white chatzer can access the street, here's the main street right here. Right? Here's the main street. So the only way for these guys to access is to go through this door. Yeah. So now you have 2 options. Either they can make an eruv together, and they could all carry back and forth with each other because there's a door, and if they don't make an eruv, then they're going to asur on each other, right? If they don't make an eruv together, then they're not going to be able to carry to each other. So that's called the isrin uma'arvin. So now let's say they forgot.
Yaakov, the outer people are going to asur on the inner people.
What? They're not. But
okay.
But they have the option to make an eruv though.
Right, but I'm saying if none of them make eruvin, and if the inner ones make eruvin with each other and the outer ones don't make eruvin with them, the inner ones can still carry around. They're not assured by the outer ones not joining with them.
What are you saying? You're saying the what?
The outer ones have no makom to go into the inner ones. It's only the inner ones that have a makom to go to the outer one.
Right.
I mean, there's no reason the outer ones can go into the inner one.
The outer ones, well, they can't carry there unless they have an eruv together.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is that they shouldn't answer the inner ones if the inner ones only make an eruv amongst themselves. In their own chatzer, I'm saying. The outer ones would be usher in their own chatzer if they don't make it with the inner ones, no?
If the outer, yes, but they can do. They have an option to do whatever way they want, right? Bottom line is, in this situation, they have an option to do whatever they want, right? No.
I was just asking. There's a difference between the inner ones and outer ones in this case. Is that correct?
There is a difference. Yes, 100%. Yes, that's what you're saying. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, let me just make sure I'm not mixing up the cases here because it's three similar cases. Yeah. Anyway, so that's what we're saying. So here you have the options again. The lashon is komakum she'aisrin uma'arvin, that they would aser on each other to carry, but they have the option of making eruvin together. Then that what happens? And let's say Shabbos morning they forget. So then everybody could be mevatel their reshus, their houses. The red guys could just be mevatel their reshus, and then everything is mutter. Right? That's the first case. The second two cases, I lost the place. Let's say the ones that they're allowed to make an eruv, but they won't aser each other. Is going beis chatzeiros. There's two chatzeiros who pesach echad beineim. Okay, so now it's a different case. It's not one behind the other. It's one on the side of the other, and they have a door right here in between them. Right, two chatzeiros right here, one on the side. They're both open to the street. They don't need to make an eruv with each other, and they won't aser each other. Right, meaning if each one doesn't affect the other. Like when one is on the inside. Right, like Akiva said, when you have one eruv on the inside, one over here and one over here, then these guys, in order to carry here, have to have an eruv. But when it's side to side, it's optional, right? So then, in that case, he's saying you can't be mevatel. Oisrin ve'ein mevatel is lasuye mai lav lasuye nochri. 1 second. So then that was 1 second. I skipped. Ma'arvin ve'ein oisrin ein mevatel going beich chatzeiros pesach echad. Oisrin ve'ein ma'arvin. Ein mevatlin, if they're aser each other and they're not ma'arvin, that they're not allowed to be mevatel. Lasuye mai lav lasuye nochri. Isn't that coming to include a nochri, right? So, meaning you can't be mevatel because what are you going to do with the? Where's my guy? Okay, I don't think it needed. It's a really overkill. But let's say the guy is in there now, right? So now there's the guy. Yeah. So now you have the guy in there. Isn't that? So, ein mevatel lasuye my lav lasuye nochri, is that not coming to include a nochri who's living with two yidden, right? Now we know that the halach is, according to everybody, if you have a guy living with two yidden, they're not allowed to make an eruv with each other. So therefore they're not allowed to be mevatel, right? The Isa now, so fine. So now they're not allowed to make an eruv. And since they're not allowed to make an eruv, they're not allowed to be mevatel to each other, and the game is over. The Ida, now here's the whole kasha on our Gemara. The Ida, asam esmal. But if it's talking about where the guy came from yesterday, why is that called ein ma'asin? Loiger me'esmal. Why didn't they rent from the guy from yesterday? And if they rent from the guy on Friday, then everything is good. Ella lav. Now we're on Talmud Beis. Dasa b'shabsa. There must be that it came on Shabbos, right? The katani Eisrin, therefore we learned that it's Aser. Ve'en ma'arvin, ein mevatlin. It's Aser, and you're not allowed to make an eruv, and ein mevatlin. Shmami know that since it was on Shabbos, they were not able to rent from the guy. So you see that you're not allowed to rent from a guy on Shabbos. That's the basic. Again, even if we didn't understand the cases of Shmuel, but the bottom line is the kasha was that we had said that you are allowed to rent from a guy. And now here we're saying very clear that when you have a scenario where there's two yidden in a chatzer, together with one guy, right? Again, going back to the videotape, right here you have the chatzer. Two red guys are yidden, and then you have the guy in the chatzer. since they're not allowed to make an eruv because they're not allowed to rent from the guy, and the Gemara is saying that that's on Shabbos. So therefore, they are going to aser. You cannot; these guys can't be mevatel the eruv, and the eruv is no good, right? And that has to be talking about where the guy came on Shabbos, because if he came before Shabbos, why not rent it from the guy, and then you're good to go, right? Elamai, it's talking about on Shabbos. So therefore, and you see you're not allowed to rent from a guy on Shabbos. That's what Rabbi Elazar's taina was on the psak that you're allowed to rent from a guy on Shabbos. Fine. And that's sugya. Amar Rav Yosef. Now we go back to discussing this din. So Amar Rav Yosef. Lo shmiel li hashmaitz. If I remember is correct, Rav Yosef forgot a lot of his learning, right? That's what Rashi says here, but we had it already a few times. Rav Yosef got sick and he forgot his learning. And Abaya always used to remind Rabbi Yosef of things that he said. So Rabbi Yosef, I'd never heard this shmaitza. Amrle Abaya from Shmuel. What's this? Amrle Abaya at Amrit Nahalan. You told us this thing. Vaha Amrit Nahalan. You told us the Amar Shmuel ain't bitul reshus chatzer chatzer. Ve'ain bitul reshus bechurba. There's no such thing as being mevatel a property from one yard to another yard. Ve'ain bitul reshus bechurba. And there's no bitul reshus chorva. Now, okay, going back to my wonderful Lego over here, all right? Taking the guy out of it, yeah? Let's say these 2 yards, these 2 chatzers want to combine, right? But they forgot to make an eruv, right? So normally, if you have this one chatzer, and the guys forgot to make an eruv, so this guy can be mevatel his reshus to this guy and finish, and then you're good to go.
No way.
Fine. Then it becomes one guy's reshus, and everything becomes his, and then you can carry, right? That's what we said many times. What happens if this property forgot to make an eruv with this property? Can all the chatzeiros be mevatel there to these guys, right? Can this whole chatzer be mevatel to this chatzer? To which Shmuel said you can't do that, right? Yeah, that's the first case, and then this whole chatzer.
No, well,
this whole chatzer wants to be mevatel to this chatzer.
Yeah, because right now this chatzer is owned by him and him.
Right.
There's no ownership from this to here.
Who cares? I'm giving it. I'm making it hefker. I'm giving it to them.
Giving it to him is different than being mevatel.
No,
if I'm
bitul
mevatel my thing.
It's the same thing.
No, if I'm mevatel my thing, it's his. He's not making a new opinion. He's not making a new. It's his already.
No, it's the same. It's no. Okay, whatever. Maybe that's Shmuel's svara, but whatever it is, Shmuel says again. If this chatzer independently forgot to make an eruv, this one could be mevatel his reshus to this one. Even on Shabbos, everything is good. But what happens if this whole chatzer wants to make an eruv with this chatzer, right? And they just want to be mevatel everything to this chatzer. Shmuel says you cannot do that, right? That's one din Shmuel says, and then Shmuel says another din, which is that if you have a destruction, you have a chatzer on one side of a house that's fallen down, and you have a chatzer or a house on the other side, and they both want to use this house that fell down in between them, right? You got 2 families, and they want to make a Shabbos Suda together, and they want to eat in the house that's fallen down. So can they make an eruv together to that house in between them? So Shmuel says they can't do that either.
Who owns
Again,
that house?
Well, it's I don't know if it's hefker or it's just it's a churban. It's abandoned. Very good word there, much. Yeah. So, Damar Shmuel ain't bitul reshus mechatzer lechatzer. I'm 5 lines down. Shmuel said ain't bitul reshus mechatzer lechatzer. You are not allowed to make a bitul of reshus from this yard to this yard, right? Ain't bitul reshus mechurba, and you're not allowed to make a bitul reshus to a churba either. And you, Rabbi Yosef, told us about Shmuel's din. Ki Amar Shmuel ain't bitul reshus mechatzer lechatzer. When can't you make a bitul reshus from one yard to another yard? That's only when it's 2 chatzeiros and there's a door between them. And since they do make each other aser, then it's allowed. So again, going back with our din, right? If this is the road, and this is one chatzar, and this is another chatzar. So Rabbi Yosef says, in this situation, since, right, so that's what Akiva was saying before, since this one will make this one aser, because how is this one carrying out to the street? It's got to go through here. So since this one will make this one aser, right, therefore they are allowed to be mevatel. So Amrlei, he said to him,
does it make a difference which way they're being mevatel, like which house they're being mevatel to? Meaning, can the outer ones be, can the inner ones be mevatel their reshus to the outer ones?
I would think it's the ones that don't have a choice. that are allowed
Correct.
to
So
be,
meaning
right?
meaning the ones that would be usher, because the inner ones aren't usher, the outer ones are really the ones usher. So maybe they're the only one side could go ahead and be mevatel.
Right, yeah. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think that you would be correct on that, yes. So Amar Lei, I know Amina Mishmei to Shmuel Hachi. I said, so he said to him, right? So Rabbi Yosef, meaning now Rabbi Yosef's going back to Abaya and asking on what Abaya quoted from Rabbi Yosef. He says, Amar Lei, I know Amina Mishmei to Shmuel Hachi. Did I say this in the name of Shmuel? V'Amar Shmuel. Now all of a sudden I don't understand. Now Rabbi Yosef seems to remember something, right? V'Amar Shmuel ein lanu be'eruvin ela kaloshen mishnasenu. Shmuel had said that in Eruvin we only have the lashon of our Mishnah. Anshe chatzer, it says people of a chatzer. V'loy anshe chatzeiros. The Mishnah only says in a lashon, it's a later Mishnah, says anshe chatzer, people of 1 yard, right here, like only one guy can be mevatel. I mean, many guys, but in one chatzer. But it doesn't say chatzeiros plural, that this chatzer can all be mevatel the reshus to this chatzer, right? And so therefore that would sound like in all situations, one chatzer can be mevatel and a chatzer. So Amalei, ki amrlan ein lanu be'eruvin ela kaloshem mishnasenu. When you said that, so Abaya said, no, when you told us that from Shem Shmuel, aha amrlan, this is what you told us. Sham mavui lechatzeres kechatzer lebatim. What that meant was that a mavui to a chatzer is like a chatzer to houses, right? So meaning that's only referring to, because again, a mavui is a street that has multiple yards opening up into it. And a chatzer is something that has multiple houses opening up into it. So Shmuel said that a mavui's relationship to a chatzer is like a chatzer's relationship to houses. Right? Yeah. That you need to have it. Okay, we'll see later on exactly what that's referring to, but you need to have until you have to have houses and chatzeiros opening up into a mavui in order for it to be allowed. Okay, fine. So that's that. So now we're still good with this. So now Gufa. Now we're going to see that there's actually a Machlokes Abaya and Rava in Shmuel's shita. Gufa, Amar Shmuel, ain't bitul reshus mechatzer lechatzer. There's no bitul reshus from 1 yard to another yard, and there's no bitul reshus in a churva. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, yesh bitul reshus mechatzer lechatzer, yesh bitul reshus bechurva. We're going to have this machlokes over the next 2 blots, so it's important to know. Again, Shmuel holds 1 yard cannot be mevatel their properties to another yard, and you cannot be mevatel reshus to a churva. Right? Again, 2 houses on either side of a abandoned property that's destroyed cannot make a bitul reshus to that. There is a bitul reshus to chatzer and there's a bitul reshus to churva. So why do you need 2 cases? If it would just say from yard to yard, Shmuel, this is where Shmuel says is din mishum da tashmish lechud, tashmish lechud. Each chatzer has its own functions. But for the churva, both houses are going to use the destroyed house in between them for whatever they need. So he would maybe agree to Rabbi Yochanan that they could be mevatel their chatzeiros to it. Maybe by the churban, maybe only there Rabbi Yochanan said his din that they could be mevatel to each other. But from 1 yard to another, maybe Shmuel, he'd be Shmuel. So therefore you need all the cases. Fine. Okay, so that's why we need to have 2 cases. And now here's what I'm Machlokes Abaya. Hadamar Shmuel ain't bitul reshus mechatzer lechatzer. This is just a repeat of what Abaya said before. This that we said there's no bitul reshus from 1 chatzer to another chatzer. Layamar ela b'shtei chatzeiros upasach echad beinein. That's only talking about 2 chatzeiros, and there's a door between them where they have the option, right? Should we do this again? He's talking about here. Let's just go back. Let's make sure we have this clear. You have 2 chatzeiros side by side. Right? 2 chatzeros side by side, and they have doors in between them. So if they want, they can make an eruv with each other. Again, if they have no doors in between them and there's a wall, we said this already yesterday, they're not allowed to make an eruv between them. Right? That's for sure. But if they have a door between them, then they have the option. They could make an eruv, they can't make an eruv. So let's say Shabbos afternoon, they decide they want to make a big kiddush together. You're not allowed to be mevatel. Right? That's where that's what Abaya says. But if it's one inside the other and there's a doorway, so since Lamaisa, in order to get out to the street, you need this, so it's almost looked at like it's one chatzer. There Abaya says it doesn't have Shmuel's chumrah. Again, Amar Abaya, Hadam Shmuel ein bitul reshus mechatzer l'chatzer laimor el b'shtei chatzeros pesach echa b'neiim. That's side by side, and there's a door between them. Aval beis chatzeros zulif nimizu. When you have two chatzeros, one inside the other, mitosha oisir mevatel. Since they do aser on each other, they are allowed to be mevatel to each other. Rava Amar afilu shtei chatzeros zulif nimizu. Even in this case, pamim mevatel, pamim ein mevatel. Sometimes they could be mevatel, sometimes they can't be mevatel. Yeah. Let's say they put their eruv in the outer yard. Yeah. They put the eruv in the outer yard. Yeah. And then one of these guys, we have 4 red houses, right? And they put the eruv here. Yeah. A piece of food? No piece of food. Okay. They put the eruv in here, right? And then one of these guys, either these one of these 4 guys, either the inner chatzer or the outer chatzer, forgot to make an eruv, then they're both aser. Nasnu eruvin b'pnimis, if they put the eruv in the inner one, and one of the inner guys forgot to make an eruv, shtei and asur, they're both aser. Let's say one of the outer guys forgot and didn't make the eruv, pnimis muteris, then these guys are going to be mutter. Chitzayna is going to be aser, the outer guys are going to be aser. That's if they put it on the chitzayna. Now he's explaining each case. Again, they put the eruv in this one, meaning the matzahs were put here, right? And one of these guys, whether on the inside or the outside, forgot and didn't make an eruv. They're both asa. Hi bar pnimis laman nevatel. Who should the inner guy be mevatel to? If he's mevatel to the guys on the inside, there's no eruv there. If he can be mevatel to these guys, ain't bitul reshus chatzer l'chatzer. You're not allowed to, according to Rava, be mevatel reshus from this one to this one. That's one case. Hi bar chitzayna laman nevatel. Who should the outer guy be mevatel to? Levatel l'vnei chitzayna ika pnimis to asra. You have the inner guys that are going to make them asra. Levatel l'vnei pnimis ain't bitul reshus chatzer l'chatzer. You can't be mevatel reshus from chatzer to chatzer. Third case, nasnu eruvin b'pnimis. If the eruv was put here, the matzahs were here. V'shokach echad min ha'pnimis v'la eruv, and one of these guys forgot. Shtei and asuris. High par pnimis laman nevatel. Who should this guy mevatel? Levatel l'vnei pnimis ika chitzayna d'asura. You have the outer guys that are asa. Levatel l'vnei chitzayna ain't bitul reshus chatzer l'chatzer. There's no reshus from chatzer to chatzer. Right? Shokach echad min ha'chitzayna. Fourth case. Let's say one of the outer guys forgot to make an eruv. Vadai pnimis muteris. The inner guys are mutter. Why not? They have a perfectly proper eruv. Tachad dasha umishtamsha, right? Because theoretically they can close their doors and they could use their right. They can say, meaning one of these guys forgot. So they could say, okay, these inner guys can say, okay, you know what? We're closing our doors. You're no longer part of us. We're independent. The chitzayna asur and the outer guys also, right? So that's so there's no, because they make it like there's no eruv. Those are the 4 different cases according to Rava. Okay, according to Abaya, all these cases you're allowed to make an eruv. Since these guys asur on each other, you would be able to be mevatel. All these other 4 scenarios are only according to Rava. Okay. Amalei Rav Huna Breda Rav Yeshua Rava v'chishaka hechem rapanim b'zvlay eruv amay shtein asuras. If one of the inner guys forgets to make the eruv, why are they both asur?
Your phone is the street?
Yes, my phone is the street. Yeah, my phone is the reshus Rava. Yeah, so I'm really Rav Shul Rava, right? Let's say one of the inner guys forgot, and didn't make an eruv. Why are they both asur? Levatel bar pnimis lebnei pnimis. Let the inner guys be mevatel to the inner guys. And let the outside guys come and become mutter with them, right?
Even according to Abaya, that should work.
Why? Well, Abaya for sure it works. They could all be mevatel.
Shmuel, who's the one that said only one chatzer can be mevatel?
No, Rav is saying chatzer cannot be mevatel. Shmuel says you can. But here we're saying Why are they both chatzer? Let the middle guy be mevatel. Let the inner chatzer be mevatel to there, and let the outer guys and come, right? And they should be mutter together with them, right? So the Gemara says, "Kiman Rabbi Elazar." Who are you saying that like? You're saying that like Rabbi Eliezer. To Amar Einat Tzarich Levatel Reshus L'Chol Echad. That's going according to Rabbi Eliezer, who says you don't have to be mevatel reshus to each and every person. Reshus to each and every person. You just have to be mevatel. We had this machlokes a while ago, right? When you have let's say you have 10 people in a property, right? And one guy forgets to be mevatel. One guy forgot to be part of eruv. Does he have to go to all 9 other people in the property to be mevatel? He does not have to, right? He could just give it over to one guy and that's enough. So he says, who are you going like? Rabbi Eliezer? He says, Ein etzorach levatel reshus l'chol echad ve'echad ki kamina l'Rabbanon. I go according to Rabbanon. Damar etzorach levatel l'chol echad ve'echad. He needs to be mevatel according to each and every one of them, right? So since right, so since he has to give it to each person, it wasn't his to do. So therefore, the chatzeiros can't be part of the pinimis. So therefore, so that doesn't work, that kasha. So according to Rava, again, there are 4 scenarios where the eruvs will not work when you're combining those chatzeros, but according to Abaya, it will work. Okay, it's a little complicated. Hopefully tomorrow will be a little easier, but it's a little faster daf than the last couple of nights. But I guess that's what happens when you don't talk about wine and drunk and all that. All right. Fine. All right, everybody. Have a good one. Sag gesund.
So, Rabbi Stein, what time chakras?
Oh, yeah, what time is it?
I don't think there's a consensus on that. I don't know.
Means?
I'll let you know. I'll post it on the Frisco chat. I think I'm gonna daven with the next minion outside Yeshiva Rockaway. That's what I'm thinking because I don't know what I'm gonna do with this minion here. But
now what time?
I'll let you know.
What time is that? That's what, 7:30?
Nate's is
Jesse,
like
you don't work, Jesse?
Nate's is
I
like
go back to work
7:09.
on Friday. Friday is when I go back.
Why?
Friday
If you were
vacation's
quarantine's over, why can't you go back to work?
Because they decided
totally.
to judge quarantine based on the positive test, not on symptoms.
Should take 15, 20 minutes tops.
Well, Jesse's very frum. He wants to be a yeshiva guy, and he takes Ben Azmanim for a week after Sukkot.
He's starting time by 8:35.
That's what he
I
does.
mean, that's what I meant.
I
Yeah,
know.
that's it.
I told him 8:35 that I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Whatever could.
Let me ask you a
Whatever
question. I was
possibly
just actually
wrong,
late with the
and
whole
whatever you
shmini
can
chatzer
imagine
that I was
can
supposed to go through. But 2 questions. First of all, I asked you about Hoshana Rabbah's Suda, and you told me there's nothing special. I heard you're supposed to have a meal with kreplach and whatever it is. That's not a thing?
What, to have a Suda with...
A Suda,
Yeah,
Hoshana Rabbah.
I don't understand. You have to have a Suda every day Cholamoyed.
I'm talking about a special Suda, no?
What?
Like a special Suda with kreplach.
Drilled into the wall.
It's not a
I
thing.
think he just wants kreplach.
So they left one wall.
There is a thing. There's a few days a year that you're supposed to have foods that are hidden in other foods, right?
Which is great.
Right,
He's on
Erev
there.
Yom Kippur.
Elio's on there.
Erev Yom Kippur.
I'm here.
And Hoshana Rabbah.
Well, what are the days? Erev Yom Kippur,
And Hoshana Rabbah.
Hoshana Rabbah,
And Purim.
Aaron Horowitz is very into this.
Purim, I think, no?
And Purim.
Yeah, but he's at a wedding.
What's the common denominator?
Hashem was hidden and he helped us, no?
The Nisim were not open.
What does that have to do with Hoshana Rabbah?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that one.
Maybe we're hidden inside the sukkah.
No, because
I'm sure this is a Google, Shiloh, no?
I'm sure you Google it. It's no problem.
Well, every Rav is a Google. There's no more psak anymore.
That's right.
So we take it's attached.
But
all right, and
It's more of a
last thing.
no.
But
What I'm saying, yes. What'd you say?
Yeah.
They say it's more of a hidden Yom Tif. Hoshana Rabbah is not. People don't look at it as chashuv as it is.
We can't make the last wall.
Is that the
All those
shas?
days are-
Erev Yom Kippur too? And Erev
Well,
Yom
it's
Kippur
definitely
too,
true
like
with Hoshana Rabbah.
Yeah.
Purim though, go ahead. The Olam on this chat likes Purim very much. It's a priority. So I don't know.
Maybe
By the
that's
way,
problem.
it's not true for everyone.
Stop fighting with each other.
What are you saying?
It's not true for anyone. Anyway, I just asked the guy in charge of the eruv here
Go knock
Yeah.
who they sell the or who they rent the eruv
Go
space
knock
from the
this door.
South End. And
Yeah.
he said that It was a mixture of the fire department and the county government.
You understand how many times
The fire department.
Fire department and the county government.
So they went to everybody.
They went to two people. They went to two groups because the fire department is the the one that can literally remove someone from their house, but the county governance deals with taxes and things like that. So to cover their bases, they did both.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Here we only do the cops. Some say to do the borough president.
In rural America, things are very, very incestuous. No jokes. I mean, like everything is like one of the
everything what?
Commissioners. One of the county commissioners is the fire chief. So they have this like interplay because the fire chief needs to be apprised of everything that goes on in the county because he's managing large swaths of land and stuff like that. So he has to be able to do it. It's very interesting.
You mean because of small town politics? Is that what you're saying?
No, well, probably that too. I mean, certainly there's graft and things like that going on here, but it's more. St. Joe County, where I live, it would take like an hour to drive, like an hour and change to drive across just the two bigger cities in St. Joe County. It's a massive, massive rural area. They have, like the post office uses what do you call them? Like contractors. Contractors because they can't get someone to go out to the farmland. They just have to. It has to manage the land differently.
Interesting.
Get into the car.
All right. Sorry.
I texted you that one because I was too embarrassed to even try to read it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, one more thing. Also, a yurtzeit candle that you light for a yurtzeit. Can you use that to light the next day's candles, or you need a separate one?
Again, what?
You have a yurtzeit candle for neshama, right? Can you use that yurtzeit candle to light second day light?
Yes.
You don't need a second one.
No. On Yom Kippur you do.
No, I know. Forget about the Yom Kippur shchiras. I understand that, but it seemed like these halachas I was reading about Shmini Atzeres made it sound like you need a separate one.
It could be. They're saying that based on Yom Kippur. I could hear that.
It's a little bit advisable because the yurtzeit candle is a one-day candle.
But you have 26 hours.
What?
If you're from Atzola,
26 hours.
I
know, but a lot of times it goes out early and then you're stuck.
I'm not stuck. I could always come to your house.
You could always come to my house and then start walking down Gateway with a candle. And I'm willing to bet you won't make it halfway home.
All right, whatever. Okay, I was just going to clarify because you never told me before. All right.
What one should I tell you?
No, that you could use the same one. I was confused because it made it sound like you needed a second one. That's all. I'm saying it have a dual purpose.
For Yom Kippur, I'm trying to think now. Trying to think out loud, which is never.
No, Yom Kippur we always do three.
Right. Now the reason for Yom Kippur is because you want a candle over Yom Kippur lit specifically to show that.
Correct, but I was saying
this fire was also a whole Yom Kippur.
Right, but I was saying if you light a candle for a yurtzeit, is it saying this is only for the neshama and you can't use it for anything else?
No, I don't hear that. I don't hear why that should be. Who cares? Meaning, but I mean, I could hear.
I think you once said that. You said you leave it for the neshama, don't use it.
That's for Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur.
Is it for an aliyah or just for a zeicha?
What?
Yeah, what do you say? Aliyah neshama or zeicha neshama?
I have no idea.
No, I'm saying, what's the purpose of the candle? The purpose is for a zeicha or for aliyah?
It's like a representation of the neshama.
Doesn't the neshama get judged every yurtzeit? On the things that. It should be it's an aliyah then. It's not just zeicha, it's aliyah.
Well, saying
you want the person to get an aliyah that day.
I'm saying, what does that have to do with lighting a candle? Like a candle represents.
What does a candle help in aliyah? You want it to zeicha.
Because you see the candle, you remember the neshama, right?
I don't know.
All right.
Is it connected to the what's it called? The giving tzedakah? No.
Candle to giving tzedakah?
I don't. I'm saying when we say yisker, right? You're supposed to just give tzedakah.
Correct.
That's the main part of yisker.
You want to know.
It's not the main. It's the only part.
If you want to know, if it's better to light a candle on a yard side or give tzedakah. I would say give tzedakah, 100%. Take your candle and put it somewhere. You know what I mean? Just give tzedakah. 100%.
You still like candles. One second, do you like candles or you don't do that either, Thiago?
You know,
is this meeting still being
He never
recorded?
remembers.
What?
He never remembers. We went over this.
They're open?
What'd you ask, Elio?
Do you like candles or you just forget about that?
And when I
If
remember,
his wife lights the candle.
Yeah, no, she for sure forgets. She's been keeping yard sites since she's 3. You know what I mean? She's way ahead of the game than me. Okay, so usually at I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock at night, I remember, I got to light a candle. Then, of course, I don't have a candle. So I got to go to my mother's house and get a candle from her. Whatever.
Yeah.
You know how it goes. I'm not exactly Mr.
By the way, that's one problem. Living out of town does not hurt because we have to buy them by the case full.
Is Boston open?
Right.
I have 3 years of yard site candles in my closet.
Yeah.
10 o'clock?
Oh, we have bingo here. They sell it by like the 50 pack.
That's how we have to buy stuff.
The suits have a vanilla?
All right.
Yeah.
The suits have a 10 o'clock?
Anyways, all right.
Yeah, what time tomorrow morning?
10?
Oh, tomorrow morning's a shtickler issue.
Okay.
Because of all the conference calls and all that. So two of my kids' conference calls are at 9. Then another one's is at 9:30.
What conference calls?
Are your boys going
upstate? Because schools are closed.
Are your boys going upstate?
What conference calls do you have?
The kids have.
I don't. If you think my kids are going on a conference call, Jesse, I don't got girls, man. If I don't sit on top of their head, they're not. Even when I sit on top of their head, they're not doing their conference calls. Right? Culture came if I'm davening.
Tiago, is Gershon and Moshe Dov going upstate?
Gershon's not. Moshe Dov is.
Oh.
Gershon's in Beis Medrash already.
They're going to North Woodmere. They're going to North Woodmere. North Woodmere. That's
by where?
What? Because it's whatever. It's crazy.
What do you do with Woodkid?
I wish. How come when I was a kid we didn't have this situation? That's what I would like to know.
Which situation? Not having to go to school?
Yeah. Do you think it would have made any difference in my life whether I missed 3-6 months of school at this age? It would make 0 difference in my life.
That's what I keep on telling my wife at school now. Just keep the kids home and let them do what they want.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do. But the bottom line is the schools give me stress.
As long as they get their checks, what do they care?
No, they mean it, Aaron. What should I tell you? Baruch Hashem, there's still people that care about things in the world.
Okay.
Anyways, all right, everybody.
All right. Wait, that wasn't the answer. So what's the answer?
I don't know. I'm going to let you know. It could be tomorrow. We're just going to have to bounce.
What, you have conference calls that early?
9 a.m.
They haven't called 9 a.m. Sheesh. Okay.
I don't know why they're calling it for so early. I don't know what the chachma is for that.
How long is the call for?
Today, Baruch Hashem, I didn't read the email. I went out at 11:45 last night to tell me that the conference goes at 9, so I thought they were at 9:45. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So how long is the call for?
So will you text me if there is?
I'll text you. Yes, I'll text you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
How long is the call for?
Have a good night.